This week in March has Mars and Venus debuting in freedom-loving Aquarius. And this could disrupt the monotonous energies we've all been working with for some time. Venus, the planet of love, money, pleasure, and sensuality, has spent the last 4 months transiting through the pragmatic sign Capricorn and began a tough retrograde period at the end of 2021. Usually, Venus tends to be all business and minimal pleasure when in Capricorn, so it's safe to assume that we're ready for a change of pace. Every time a planet debuts in a new sign, change happens, significant change. Now, the term expect the unexpected is a little bit overrated, but it very much speaks of the vibe of Mars and Venus in Aquarius. Spontaneous and unconventional, the electric synergy can be inspiring as it is eccentric, as we know about Aquarius. Let's put it this way. If there are themes like your individual freedom and a sense of belonging in the world are its main driver when its transits occur through Aquarius. Apply this energy to, let's say, friends with benefits situations, and Mars in Aquarius is all about the liberation that comes with the experience. Add in Venus's seductive energy that fuels Mars's fire, however, and you might just have an unexpected friends to lovers twist on your hands. But given Aquarius's emphasis on larger communities and affairs and experimentation, it's best not to get wrapped up in the small things like flirtatious flings and impromptu advances this week. Your best bet with this energy is to keep an open mind, especially when it comes to finances and romance. Fortunately, by the moon shift in intuitive Cancer on March 11, spending time with your loved ones and coming back home to yourself will more than likely bring you peace after the chaos. This is an opportunity for you to silence the noise and find the nurture you need. Plus, with the moon in harmony with Mercury and Jupiter in Pisces, there will be magic in your acts of compassion and healing in your vulnerability. So be gentle with yourselves and take care and take everything one step at a time. You're human and everything in your life is unfolding exactly as it should. So if you're wondering what this week has in store for you specifically per sign, check your dominant sign, your sun, ascendant, or moon sign, and read and listen to the next series. This week in March has Mars and Venus debuting in freedom-loving Aquarius. And this could disrupt the monotonous energies we've all been working with for some time. Venus, the planet of love, money, pleasure, and sensuality, has spent the last 4 months transiting through the pragmatic sign Capricorn and began a tough retrograde period at the end of 2021. Usually, Venus tends to be all business and minimal pleasure when in Capricorn, so it's safe to assume that we're ready for a change of pace. Every time a planet debuts in a new sign, change happens, significant change. Now, the term expect the unexpected is a little bit overrated, but it very much speaks of the vibe of Mars and Venus in Aquarius. Spontaneous and unconventional, the electric synergy can be inspiring as it is eccentric, as we know about Aquarius. Let's put it this way. If there are themes like your individual freedom and a sense of belonging in the world are its main driver when its transits occur through Aquarius. Apply this energy to, let's say, friends with benefits situations, and Mars in Aquarius is all about the liberation that comes with the experience. Add in Venus's seductive energy that fuels Mars's fire, however, and you might just have an unexpected friends to lovers twist on your hands. But given Aquarius's emphasis on larger communities and affairs and experimentation. It's best not to get wrapped up in the small things like flirtatious flings and impromptu advances this week. Your best bet with this energy is to keep an open mind, especially when it comes to finances and romance. Fortunately, by the moon shift in intuitive Cancer on March 11, spending time with your loved ones and coming back home to yourself will more than likely bring you peace after the chaos. This is an opportunity for you to silence the noise and find the nurture you need. Plus, with the moon in harmony with Mercury and Jupiter in Pisces, there will be magic in your acts of compassion and healing in your vulnerability. So be gentle with yourselves and take care and take everything one step at a time. You're human and everything in your life is unfolding exactly as it should. Let's begin with Aries. Your horoscope for the week, which began March 6. It usually feels like you're starting a brand new chapter in life every time your fiery planet ruler Mars changes signs, Aries. Given it has everything to do with the action you take and the passion that inspires you to do so. Therefore, the switch from Mars and Capricorn, your career sector, to Aquarius, your social life, beginning March 6th, will be for the better. With Mars also transiting alongside its main squeeze, Venus, you're prone to be driven by community affairs and your individual freedom at this time. So by all means, feel free to tap into your humanitarian spirit. Your challenge this week could stem from the moon's square to Mars and Venus and Saturn toward the beginning of the week. But not if you're willing to venture outside of your comfort zone and be a team player. Your ability to lead by example is being tested, so trust the fire in your heart. Now let's move on to Taurus. Taurus, you're probably hoping to catch a break, but there's still some work for you to do this week. You're not a very big fan of change, but trust that it's refreshing when your planetary ruler, Venus, changes signs. So do your best to go with the flow. This began on March 6, and Venus also travels alongside Mars, with both making their dazzling debut in Aquarius via your 10th house of authority and reputation and goals in life. Don't sleep on your limitless potential, especially toward the beginning of the week when the moon is in your sign. With the moon at odds with Mars, Venus, and Saturn in your prestigious career sector, you may realize your stubborn nature could be affecting your professional success. That is, unless you're open and willing to explore all horizons. When the moon moves conjunct rebellious Uranus on March 7th, you may decide to just go for it and make a big move. And the best part is you'll probably shock some of your peers in the process. The moon will also sit alongside Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces, so don't disregard any synchronicities. You're on to something and you can feel it. Keep in mind, despite its trine with transformative Pluto on March 8th, fueling your desire to move forward, the moon will also clash with savvy Mercury. Do your due diligence and think hard before laying everything you're thinking out on the table. But don't let this momentary hiccup take you off course. Staying grounded will benefit you, as will remaining assured in the validity of your talent, money-making abilities, and value systems. Taurus, staying grounded will benefit you, as will remaining assured in the validity of your talents, your money-making abilities, and your value systems. People aren't always going to validate your decisions this week, and that's okay. Trust your vision. Gemini, take the leap, Gemini. Big things are ahead, and your spirit can't help but thrive off the anticipation, especially as Mars and Venus shift into spontaneous Aquarius via your expansive ninth house of entrepreneurial pursuits. You may hit a roadblock as the moon faces off with Mars, Venus, and Saturn in Aquarius at the beginning of the week, glimmering through your inhibited 12th house of dreams and solitude. Whether you're held up on an outdated belief system or a repressed fear you can't seem to shake off, you have to get out of your own head for this to work. Venture out and explore something new. The moon will also link up with lucky Jupiter and Neptune in your career sector. So this could have something to do with a professional endeavor or creative opportunity. On the 9th of March, the moon will clash with your planetary ruler, Mercury, so don't make any rash decisions at this time. Inspiring opportunities and creative ideas don't always make sense right away. So keep it slow and steady for the time being. Spending time in nature to stay grounded will benefit you on March 9 and 10 when the moon squares Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces amid its transit through your sign, because things aren't always what they seem. If anything, you're being challenged to balance what you know intuitively and what you know logically. Cancer. Spice things up, Cancer. This week, which began March 6, kicks off with celestial lovers Mars and Venus making their grand entrance in Aquarius, supercharging your intimate 8th house of mergers and soulmate connections in the process. In real life or digitally, this is an opportunity to connect, collaborate, and maybe canoodle. In the meantime, while the moon roams through sensual Taurus, it will clash with Mars, Venus, and Saturn on March 6th and 7th. Basically, mixing business with pleasure is never a good idea, but sometimes it just happens. Either way, it's always a good idea to set boundaries. Savvy Mercury slipping into dreamy Pisces on the 9th of March will bring some momentum and clarity to your 9th house of adventure. It's a good time to work on that fantasy fiction book or start planning your island paradise vacation while you're feeling inspired. When the moon shifts into Gemini and your sleepy 12th house of closure, dreams, and rest, take this as your official cue to kick back and to clear your head. Just in time for the moon's monthly debut in your sign on the 11th of March. Luna will make sweet aspects to Mercury and Jupiter via your sister sign Pisces, which means you're bound to end the week on a magical note. Enjoy the glow up and embody the magic of your water element. Hi Leo, your powers of seduction skyrocketed under this week's astro weather. So Leo, if you're not looking for anything serious, don't make eye contact. Okay, that's a joke, but not quite, because Mars and Venus shift into rebellious Aquarius on March 6th will certainly activate your committed 7th house of significant others. And well, it would shake things up a little bit, whether it be with regard to business or the magnetic chemistry you share with someone. This electric synergy is encouraging you to connect with like-minded individuals who share your hopes and dreams. The catch? The moon goes head-to-head with Mars, Venus, and Saturn, March 6th and 7th, while glimmering through Taurus in your 10th house of authority. So focus on genuine connections as opposed to superficial flings. This advice carries over to Mercury's shift into Pisces, which will ignite your 8th house of intimate unions and energetic exchanges, serving as a reminder to set firm boundaries. Are your connections built on a solid foundation? Tune into your intuition for the answer, especially when it comes to your close relationships. Upon the moon entering Gemini and your 11th house of community, Luna, the moon, will also square Jupiter and Neptune on March 9 and 10. If something isn't adding up, it's probably not a coincidence. Show up with honesty and integrity in your interactions and mind your business. So, Virgo, listen closely. After working diligently to discover what really inspires you, you're now being called to refine your talents for the greater good. Divine counterparts Mars and Venus will sizzle into socially conscious Aquarius and your sixth house of daily routines and acts of service on March 6th. By all means, commit to a long-term plan, but don't ignore the opportunities that are being presented to you in the moment. The moon's transit through persistent Taurus and its clash with Mars, Venus, and Saturn on March 7th will only emphasize this. Don't attach yourself to a particular outcome. Moon meeting with Pluto the following day will continue to fuel your passions, but its square to Mercury serves as a reminder to multitask responsibly. The messenger Mercury will make its annual debut in Pisces on the 9th of March, adding hope to your committed 7th house of agreements and significant others. This doesn't necessarily make you any less meticulous in your professional collaborations, but maybe it should. So, a little food for thought there to manage your stress, Virgo. After the moon enters Gemini and your 10th house of career on the 9th, it'll challenge your relationship sector, meaning your innate desire to be so painstakingly strategic could add unnecessary confusion to your genuine connections. Fortunately, the moon shift into intuitive Cancer and your 11th house of friends and community will uplift you with sweet nostalgia and social interactions that feel like home. Your gratitude will bring abundance and friends will turn into family. Libra. Put your sparkle on display, Libra. After 4 months of nesting and adorning your living space, Mars and your planetary ruler, Venus, will debut in your sister sign, Aquarius, bringing abundance to your 5th house of love, passion, and pleasure on March 6th. You sure that the person is just a crush? While the moon glimmers through your innate 8th house of soulmate connections, it'll also clash with Mars, Venus, and Saturn until March 7th. Just because there are no strings attached to a fling doesn't mean it can't get complicated quickly. Do your best to draw the line between friends and lovers so no one gets hurt. With the moon's conjunction to Uranus, your urge for freedom is undeniable. The moon will enter Gemini and your expansive 9th house on the 9th, quenching your desire to venture into the unknown. However, the moon square to Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces until March 10 might present a challenge in the form of crystallizing your big plans for the future or knowing where to start. After all, you're prone to FOMO and general restlessness with your day-to-day routine. The true source of your inspiration is what matters, so focus on what brings you the most joy and manifest it. Doing so will work in your favor upon the moon's shift into Cancer and your 10th house of career on the 11th and its meeting with lucky Jupiter on the 12th. Scorpio. Gather with your loved ones and surround yourself with people who feel like home this week. After focusing hard on professional projects and working diligently on your work tasks, your traditional planetary ruler Mars and its divine counterpart Venus make a grand entrance in Aquarius. This dynamic transit offers the opportunity to be your most authentic self alongside the people who support you. But the moon will clash with Mars, Venus, and Saturn until March 27th, while activating your committed 7th house of agreements and compromise. Your loved ones or business partnerships may or may not respond well to your choices, but communication is everything. As always, try to be mindful of your conversations. After the moon enters Gemini on the 9th, Gemini's celestial ruler Mercury will join the Sun, Jupiter, and Neptune in Pisces via your romantic 5th house of love and self-expression. Your velvet voice has always been one of your finest attributes, but there's no denying the bewitching energy you're emanating at this time. But for those of you who get carried away, the moon square to Jupiter and Neptune until the 10th of March can also be a gentle reminder to pump the brakes a bit. There's nothing wrong with getting your flirt on, but don't get it twisted, especially because things aren't always what they seem, at least for now. It might be a good idea to clear your head with a little weekend getaway when the moon enters Cancer on the 11th and joins Jupiter in a lovely trine on the 12th. Disconnect and dream a little dream, Scorpio. Sagittarius, when you start recognizing your true worth, this is when you will be unstoppable. And this week kicks off with Mars and Venus in freedom-loving Aquarius and your third house of communication. Be sure to silence those notifications while you work because your devices are buzzing. This will be especially necessary considering the moon square to Mars, Venus, and Saturn towards the beginning of the week, highlighting your sixth house of daily duties. Can't concentrate on your work tasks? If you want to reap the fruits of your labor, push past the temptation to procrastinate. Although for some of you, this square is simply challenging you to think outside the box of your usual routines. The moon enters Curious Gemini and your committed 7th house of significant others on the 9th, bringing greater emphasis to your one-on-one connections and your communication style. So if you have something that you need to say, well, the moon will clash with your planetary ruler Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces until the 10th, which means you may not necessarily feel comfortable opening up at this time. You could also be avoiding an unnecessary can of worms. But the good news is the moon's shift into sensitive Cancer on the 11th will help you find the comfort you seek. Remember, your ability to be vulnerable can bring healing to you and your partnerships. Capricorn, you're finally out of the woods, Capricorn, after several months under the spotlight of a tough Venus retrograde. Mars and Venus finally dazzle their way into Aquarius, and your stability-seeking second house of comfort, finances, and value systems, which happened on March 6th. Brainstorming your next business venture? You could be collaborating with eclectic partners or looking to invest in something out of the ordinary. However, while the moon journeys through Taurus and your 5th house of fame, passion, projects, and self-expression, it squares Mars, Venus, and Saturn, your planetary ruler, until March 7th. You're not a spotlight hogger, but you may be having trouble with the idea of sharing your wins. Ego aside, don't underestimate the potential of your collaborations. If things don't make sense right away, focus on your vision and let the chips fall where they may. On a brighter note, Messenger Mercury joins the Sun, Jupiter, and Neptune in dreamy Pisces on the 9th, lighting up your curious 3rd house of communication with hope, compassion, and wisdom. Whether creatively or romantically, don't be afraid to look through Pisces' rose-colored glasses, especially those of you who are looking for inspiration. Fast forward to the 11th, when the moon enters Cancer and your committed 7th house of agreements, compromise, and significant others. Taking the initiative to open your heart to a potential partnership could turn out to be incredibly rewarding, and the moon's trine to Jupiter on the 12th makes it all the more serendipitous. Aquarius, March has rolled out the red carpet for you, Aquarius. It's not every day that both Mars and Venus dance through your signs simultaneously. And with just the right amount of pizzazz, the week of March 6th kicks off with this dazzling duo bringing in abundance and inspiration to your personal and professional life. Although the Taurus moon, highlighting your 4th house of emotional foundations toward the beginning of the week, coupled with the moon square to Mars, Venus, and Saturn, could trigger feelings of limitation surrounding your individual freedom. Instead of dwelling on what feels lackluster, harness the energy of the moon's trine to Pluto on March 8th, as it will bring grounding and transformation to the areas you need to heal. You're in for a sweet treat upon the moon shift into Gemini on the 9th, sparkling with effervescence in your 5th house of romance and passion. This transit is making you incredibly flirtatious and charismatic at this time. Ironically, though, the moon's difficult square to Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces on the 9th and 10th could be the reason you're suddenly second-guessing yourself. Not that you need to. That said, you can get an unexpected surge of inspiration, and if you're willing to experiment, discover a unique talent in the process. The moon's shift into Cancer on the 11th will touch down on your responsible 6th house of duties and meet with lucky Jupiter on the 12th. Remember, there is magic in mindfulness and daily rituals. And finally, Pisces. Download that meditation app, Pisces. It's the season of your blessed solar return. Yes, but with Mars and Venus shift into Aquarius and your mystical 12th house of dreams, you're also being called to go inward and find your Zen. Granted, you thrive in your sacred space, even if that means being more exclusive with your energy and social interactions. Although given the moon's journey through Taurus and its tricky square to Mars, Venus, and Saturn on the 6th and 7th, let your friends know you're laying low and catching up on your beauty sleep, so they're in the loop. Besides, the moon will also conjunct tech-loving Uranus, so FaceTime hangs are just fine. On March 9th, Savvy Mercury will make its official debut in your sign, which is equivalent to the cosmos handing you the microphone. So, Mercury isn't necessarily in its element when swimming through your numinous waters, but you don't really mind it. Use this time to cultivate your creativity and intuitive abilities. Listen to your playlist on shuffle and ask the universe for lyrical messages. You're very tapped in at this time. The week ends on a magical note as the moon enters its home sign, Cancer, and your expressive 5th house of love, romance, and creative musings on March 11th. You're thinking hard about someone who has your attention or an art project you've decided to explore. Either way, the moon's harmonious trine to Jupiter in your sign on the 12th reminds you to follow your heart. So there you have it, folks. The cosmic weather is inviting new and unexpected surprises this first week of March, with the planet of action, direction, intention, and passion, Mars, and the planet of love, romance, sensuality, and money, Venus, who finally have moved into unpredictable Aquarius, where all things involving life and love had a serious and isolated tone to it after Capricorn's influence. We now have a more sociable and group-oriented influence in the sign of Aquarius. Stay tuned for more updates from Zoria's Sacred Astrology.